The rain came down in steady silver lines that blurred the edge of the highway and turned the old gas station sign into a flickering ghost. The night was colder than it had any right to be, the kind that crept into bones and made every sound echo louder than it should. On the cracked pavement, under the glow of a single yellow bulb, stood a young woman, maybe 25, holding a little girl in her arms. Her name was Mariah, and the child was Lily, barely 4. Their car had died 10 miles back, and her phone battery was long gone. She'd walked through the rain, whispering comfort into her daughter's ear, promising they'd find help before the night swallowed them whole. When she reached the gas station, it looked abandoned until the rumble came. Not thunder this time, but engines. 7 motorcycles, black and chrome, rolling slow, headlights cutting through the downpour like eyes of wolves. For a second, Mariah froze, clutching Lily tighter. The world had taught her to fear what looked rough, and these men looked like trouble. Tattoos, leather, silence. But what she didn't know was that one of them, the man leading the pack, carried a story that began with another child's cry years ago on a street called Maple Avenue. His name was Reed. He had changed since that day, more gray in his beard, more quiet in his soul, but the same fire in his chest that refused to let fear or cruelty win. When he saw the woman and child soaked in rain under the broken sign, he pulled to a stop, killing his engine first, the others following. For a heartbeat, the only sound was rain hitting metal. Reed stepped forward, his boots splashing through puddles, his eyes softening when he saw the child's trembling lips. "Hey there," he said, voice low and steady, the same tone he'd once used with a scared little boy named Ethan. "You folks okay?" Mariah hesitated, her voice barely a whisper. "Car broke down. My girl's cold." Reed looked over his shoulder and gave a nod. One of his crew, a giant of a man with a beard like a storm cloud, took off his own leather jacket and handed it forward. Reed draped it gently around Lily, tucking it over her shoulders. The child blinked up at him, then smiled, the smallest, bravest smile in the world. The station door creaked open then, and an old man in greasy coveralls stepped out. He squinted through the rain. "Closed," he barked. "Come back tomorrow." But Reed didn't move. "She's got a kid," he said quietly. "And she's not waiting till tomorrow." The old man grumbled something about punks and bikers, but when Reed stepped closer and the light hit his face, tired eyes, wet hair, no malice, the anger faded. "All right," the mechanic muttered, unlocking the door. Inside it was warmer, dimly lit by an old lamp and the hum of a vending machine. The girl shivered as Reed sat her on the counter, unwrapped a chocolate bar, and broke it in half. "You like chocolate, kiddo?" She nodded, still clutching her mother's hand. Mariah whispered thank you, and Reed shook his head. "Don't thank me," he said softly. "Just warm her up." But as the minutes passed, something shifted. The woman began to talk about how her husband had left, how she'd sold everything she owned just to move back to her mother's house 2 states away, how she'd run out of luck long before she ran out of gas. Reed listened in silence, every word hitting him like the rain outside, gentle but relentless. When she finished, he said the same words he'd said years ago to a bruised grandmother on a porch. No one should ever have to live scared. He turned to his crew. "Tank her car, fix it, and make sure she's got a safe ride out." The men moved like a silent machine, checking the engine, refueling, even cleaning the cracked windshield. The mechanic, watching in disbelief, found himself helping too, handing tools with shaky hands. By the time the sky began to lighten in the east, the car was ready. Mariah stood beside it, tears mixing with rain, unable to speak. "Why?" she finally managed. Reed looked at her, his expression unreadable. "Because once," he said, "somebody cried for help, and I promised I'd never ignore that sound again." She didn't know what he meant, but she nodded. Lily hugged him tight before climbing into the car, her small voice saying, "You're like a hero." Reed chuckled softly. "Not a hero, kid. Just somebody trying to keep a promise." As the car drove off, taillights fading into the dawn, Reed stood there, watching. The rain had stopped, leaving behind the smell of wet earth and redemption. One of the men approached. You ever think that promise will end? Reed shook his head slowly. Not till the world stops needing it. They rode off then, engines growling through the morning mist, 7 shadows fading into gold. And somewhere down that same highway, Mariah looked in the rearview mirror and whispered, "Thank you," even though he couldn't hear. But maybe he did. Maybe people like Reed always hear it, because kindness doesn't end when the moment passes. It lingers, like the warmth of a hand that helped you when the world turned cold. Weeks later, a story went viral on social media. Biker angels rescue mother and child in the rain. Photos showed a soaked woman, a smiling child in an oversized leather jacket, and a man with a gray beard looking away from the camera. The internet called him a hero. Reed never saw the post. He was somewhere miles away helping a stranger fix a flat tire outside an old diner, while his brothers joked nearby. But if he had seen it, he would have smiled, that small, tired smile that comes from knowing the world still has good left in it. And that maybe, just maybe, the loudest acts of kindness are still done by those the world least expects. So if this story reached you, if it reminded you that compassion can come from the most unexpected places, don't let it fade. Like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner, where we tell stories that remind the world what strength really looks like. Because sometimes, it's not in the roar of engines or the fight for revenge. It's in the quiet act of stopping, in the rain, for someone who needs help. Tell us in the comments, would you have stopped that night? Or would you have driven by not knowing that a small act could change a life forever?